Another Transformers show was bold enough to not fully wrap up its story at the end of its 3rd season. Cyberverse is over. We still don't know what a Cyberverse is or what the title of the show means, and I've had a nagging feeling since season 1 that there was no answer to this question, nor was it intended to be a question. I suppose I can live with this. So I was scrolling through the internet one day in February, and I discovered that the entire 3rd season had already aired, and that was exciting, to say the least. And I have a lot of thoughts on this little season that I can't wait to share. But more importantly, there is a conspiracy afoot. When you think of Hasbro, what do you think of? No doubt, creative integrity and artistic clarity come to mind, but you are mistaken. They're frauds. They're all frauds. Frauds. In the 3rd season, the Transformers Cyberverse has been stealing some ideas. After 7 years of analyzing season 3 and piecing together clues and theories, I realized it's all connected. These aren't just any ideas they stole, they're my ideas, and I can prove it. But I'll do that later. The 3rd season of Cyberverse has hit its stride, learning from all of the shortcomings of the first 2 seasons, and it just barrels towards its endgame with so much confidence. The season is turbulent, it knows what it is and what it's trying to be. The first season tried to have big emotional moments that didn't always land. The 2nd season said, screw emotions, let's have Starscream be insane for 18 episodes. And that was exactly the direction Cyberverse needed to go in. Season 3 doubles down on this and mixes in even more classic sci-fi concepts, combining them with new interpretations of Quintesson lore. And it is incredible. I've said this for years. If you're coming to watch Cyberverse, well, okay, like a year and a half, because that's all the show's existed for. I've said, if you're coming to watch Cyberverse for lots of story depth and deep symbolism, you're in the wrong place. Go read more than meets the eye. But if you're coming to find a Transformers show where things just happen because they're cool, then you are in the right place. The issue is that these first 4 episodes are among the worst things to come out of this series and are so poorly structured and inconsistent with their use of characters that they feel like season 1 episodes. So let's talk about these little bad boys first.
Why didn't you do that before?
I didn't know if it would work. Also, it burnt out my optics. I can no longer see.
So the triumphant season 3 premiere says, let's focus entirely on Chromia and Perceptor, 2 minor characters who appeared in the first season and contributed absolutely nothing, one of whom didn't even speak, having only a 1-scene cameo in the pilot. Then, before we're really introduced to them, Perceptor's eye blows up, and there's really no consequence to this because he has
other means of perception.
I mean, I like this version of Perceptor fine, and this Chromia is okay, but the comic version has a more clearly demonstrated personality. So they have this generic escape attempt, and the arc blows up. Oh no, clearly season 3 episode 1 just killed all the main characters. Do kids actually fall for this? I'm really asking here. I remember when I was in elementary school, Phineas and Ferb had an Africa 2-parter that ended on a cliffhanger where Phineas and Ferb seemingly fall to their doom and Perry gets zapped by a bunch of naders, and everyone at school was like, they're definitely alive. The show is called Phineas and Ferb. Do you think they'll just not be in the rest of it?
I'm gonna make that medic need a medic.
Things just sort of happen. There's no greater character meaning behind things for the most part in these early episodes. Characters just fight because they need to fight, and the action's not super great in this show. It's just flat shots of generic robots punching each other with really stale generic sounds. If human beings have evolved to use drone warfare and tanks and machine guns, why are the Cybertronians just punching each other? Why not include Skywarp in season 1 if the plan was for her to get no formal introduction and contribute nothing to the story in the 3rd season? And Strika, okay, Strike is cool. She can do whatever. It's weird she's not Russian, but I don't know. She's cool. And I'm a huge Worrell fan. He just shows up out of nowhere like a G1 character, and he's a lot watered down compared to the comics. It's Worrell light, but it's still cool to see him, so I'm not complaining. And I still hate all of the dialogue in the show.
You cannot win. I must not lose.
Yeah! Woo! Yes! Woo! Yeah! Woo! Yes! Yeah! And then Prowl dies.
In the arms of the...
As if we care, we barely know Prowl. He didn't do anything. For me, when a new Transformers show starts, I look at these as completely new characters. You can't expect me to care about Cyberverse Prowl just because animated and IDW Prowl were cool. This isn't those. This is Cyberverse Prowl, and we really didn't know anything about him other than his 2 or 3 personality traits that have been established, but not explored. This was a Season 1 move, and it's weird that it happened because I thought the show would have moved away from pulling false emotion out of unemotional situations. And I read on the TF Wiki that the text on this monitor literally translates to, "I like pickles."
Time to activate Team Hot Rod. Team Hot Rod?
The mundane battle for Cybertron continues. Every character having the exact same proportions is so distracting. I have an issue with a lot of these character designs, and first I want to make a distinction. There's a difference between a good design and a good character design. All of these designs look incredible, but as characters in a cartoon, they don't really say anything. The best character designs of the franchise are from Transformers Animated, because Derek J. White's a very professional character designer. You look at Bulkhead, you know everything you need to know, because he kind of falls into design archetypes. He's the dumb, big oaf kind of guy. You look at Wheeljack from Cyberverse, what does the design tell you other than it's a new version of Wheeljack? If you're an outsider looking in,
on the outside, always looking in. Will I ever be more than I've always been? Cause I'm tapping on the glass.
it's a new version of Wheeljack. If you're an outsider looking in, you don't know what this character's personality is just from the image. You certainly wouldn't guess that he's a quirky scientist. You'd think more like a macho man. Everything should work together to help tell the story, not just the writing and the dialogue. A really good crash course for character design is a video by BAM Animation called Good vs. Bad Character Design, or something like that.
Lineups with good variety will feel like a roller coaster. Bad lineups will be a boring train track.
When designing characters, there's these little lines and boxes you can like drag around to find dynamic proportions. The animated cast is diverse in their size and shapes. Their lines are all over the place, but imagine if they looked like the Cyberverse characters. Like, imagine the Autobots are just walking around town being buddies, and then all of a sudden they run into the Decepticons, Megatron, Blitzwing, Shockwave, Lugnut, and Black Arachnia. And Megatron's like, give me your Allspark. And Optimus is like, no. Megatron's like, ah. It'd be a disaster. So Teletran X is able to casually use his drone body again, and this happened in late season 2 as well, but I just thought about it now. Didn't he sacrifice himself in season 1? And didn't he make himself part of the main computer of the Ark?
It's okay. I will reboot the system using my own processor.
How is he a drone again? I don't really understand the rules for Teletran X. In my notes, I just wrote Big Boy Shockwaves. I assume that's referring to the big drones. I don't know what I wanted to say about them, but I think Big Boy Shockwaves is enough. Okay. Drift time. This made no sense. In season 1, we see Deadlock's defection to the Autobots. By season 2, he's renamed Drift. In part 1 of this arc, Drift makes an ominous In part 1 of this arc, Drift makes an ominous comment to Hot Rod.
I do, and it's been a long time coming. Trust me, Hot Rod. I'll make sure you're there.
And at first, I thought maybe this was a More Than Meets the Eye reference, because they have a funny relationship in that comic. But no, he's a Decepticon.
No one ever leaves the Decepticons.
No one ever leaves the Decepticons. Okay, so when Clobber defects later in the season, does that mean she's secretly a double agent too? Or what about when Soundwave and Shadow Striker join the Autobots in the last episode? Does that mean nothing? This just comes out of nowhere. There's no build-up. Drift, like Prowl, is another character that we have no reason to care about. He's just there. The situation was just rushed and handled so bizarrely. Hot Rod dies, and then it just moves on for a 10-second flying shot, and then goes back to B. And the morning is so brief because of these 11-minute episodes. They don't even spend any time on the morning because Hot Rod, of course, comes back 2 episodes later. I know I'm being really negative. I promise I like this season. I promise as soon as the battle for Cybertron's done, I'm gonna be like gushing and drooling over this thing. Bludgeon! Teletran X dies for the 2nd time as well. Or is this just a drone extension of the main computer? What was the point of his fake death in season 1 if he can just be right back in a drone body?
What you say?
I thank you, Repugnus.
Yeah, thanks for kidnapping me and trying to steal all of my energon.
It was our pleasures.
So all of a sudden, these cute little Repugnus guys show up. That would be like if the Headmaster was introduced in Transform and Roll Out Part 3 in a single inconsequential scene in preparation for his later appearance at the very end of the season. It's me. It's just another really weird choice to introduce these characters in Part 4 of your little movie. And throwing Bludgeon into Unspace is actually a great potential introductory point for the more IDW-style Bludgeon and the Dark Universe stuff. They obviously didn't have any plans to do that, but I like how they left that option open. So a double reverse sacrifice by Cheetor and Shockwave saves the Allspark, restores Cybertron. It was a perfect ending for Cheetor. I really liked that guy. I was sad to see him go, and I kind of sensed his death coming during that quiet moment in part 1, but Shockwave's death here makes no sense. The Allspark was never that important to his character. What even was the core of his character? What's the core of most of these characters? He had a rivalry with Soundwave that never went anywhere. It could have been interesting, but once again, they wasted potential, and it's sad to see that. Okay! So you're probably thinking, oh, a corrupted Allspark?
Shockwave is corrupting it.
Destroying the Allspark?
Destroy the Allspark.
Starscream taking control of the Allspark?
The Allspark! It's inside of him!
What original, fun, and zany concepts! These writers are sure wrong. Because if you're foolish enough to have been a longtime fan of this channel, then you might remember episode I think 12 and 13 of my season 4 storyboard series, Allsparkalypse Now, where Megatron sets out to destroy the Allspark, then corrupts the Allspark, all while Starscream has taken control of the Allspark. It's a little fishy.
I am the Allspark. I am the Allspark.
Clearly the Hasbro higher-ups are watching my high school YouTube fan fictions. Oh, but this isn't all. This isn't all. Ultimately, this premiere is Cyberverse at its worst. It's a bunch of cool ideas that are just thrown at the wall with no unification, and it's a bit of a mess. Don't get me wrong, I really like and respect Randolph Hurd. I don't like criticizing his writing like this. Like, he's one of those guys that's just cool and you wish he was your dad. Not like Dan Povenmire levels of you wish he was your dad, but he's up there on the chart. And just for the record, I idolized Dan Povenmire, like, before he got famous on TikTok. I used to have this obscure creator I aspired to be, and now everyone knows who he is, and it's not special. The battle for Cybertron begins and ends with Optimus musing about transformation. When you break it down and look what his speech is actually saying, he's just saying, things change. Like, okay. Was that supposed to be the theme? I mean, things change can be a really great theme, but you have to, like, explore that statement in order for it to actually be a theme. Let's look at another cartoon I really enjoy, Gravity Falls. The main theme of that show, or at least one of them, is things change.
Things change. Summer ends.
But that show really dives into what it means. It explores that statement through two opposing characters.
I just wish summer could last forever.
But it can't, Mabel. Look, things aren't gonna stay frozen this way. It's part of growing up.
Dipper's whole thing is that he wants life to change. He wants to grow up. He wants to stop being a kid. Mabel's whole thing is that she doesn't want to change. She wants to be a kid forever and to maintain the status quo. This conflict between the characters is directly what leads to the finale of the series.
Just a little more summer.
It's a shame that Cyberverse tries to propose the same theme but fails completely. It puts a painting of a pretty lake in front of you, but you can't dip your feet in, you can't dive in or explore the water because it's just a big facade. I'm sorry, I've been really negative about the first 4 episodes. Like, I was fine watching them. It's just, to me, the cons really outweighed everything else, but I dig everything else that came in this season, so I'm ready to dive into that. I love it.
Of all the bots I could break out, I got Clobber.
Lucky, huh?
Yeah, sure.
So all of a sudden, Cyberverse has one of its best episodes. It's The Matrix mixed with Groundhog's Day mixed with Quintessons. You can't claim it's original, but what is? It fuses these concepts together in a really, really fun way. Basically, the interior of the Matrix is a miniature Groundhog's Day loop, repeating a little parade over and over. Okay, so Cyberverse mispronounces Quintesson.
End this Quintesson invasion.
They stress the second syllable, saying it Quintesson.
I'm no Quintesson.
And that's never been the case in Transformers before. But you know where else that happened? My con job storyboard, episode like 7 or 8 or something. I think it was 8.
Your EMP. I needed to infiltrate a Quintesson research outpost.
So I forced my government teacher, Mr. Stevens, to voice Lockdown during his prep period. Perfect. Okay. And he could not pronounce that word. I was like, Quintesson. He was like,
Quintesson.
And I was like, no, Quintesson.
Quintesson.
So at that point, I was like, you know, these videos get like 300 views each. It's not a big deal. Who cares? So I just let him pronounce it Quintesson. But clearly, that mispronunciation inspired a certain group of writers. Or voice actors. Or, since the voice actors recorded separately and multiple characters pronounced it Quintesson, it must have been the dialogue director who saw it. It's going deeper, it's going deeper.
I did run into some problems while trying to save the world. But I survived.
Hey, CATT returns as a writer. She literally seems like the coolest person alive. She's exactly the kind of D-list obscure writer that I idolize more than any actual celebrities. This episode is more of the same. I like this version of Dead End. He's colored after his Revenge of the Fallen movie toy colors, which is the kind of hilarious deep cut reference only Cybertron would make. Okay, now let's talk about how Hot Rod is alive. This little man was stabbed and dragged under a tar pit. But nope, he's alive. So how did this kill Drift and not Hot Rod? Why did the tar 1-to-1 recolor his paint job? Why does Dark Rodimus sound like an edgy Robin?
I have to go alone. And when I did, it was too late. The Quintessence had already taken over.
That guy takes himself way too seriously.
And I love how every single character in this show seems to know each other.
Hello, dead end.
This planet-wide war, and everyone knows who every single other soldier is. It's so dumb and G1-like. I like it.
Where are you going, Percy?
So this story's been really well paced, too, given the 11-minute restrictions. It feels like an episode worth of stuff happens each episode, as opposed to 2 episodes worth of stuff getting shoved in. McAdam is a major part of the story again, and McAdams turns out to be a Titan. I love it. I love McAdam. I love everything about this revelation. It makes so much sense, given the significance this little bar has had in the first 2 seasons. And I'm happy that they chose for Whirl to escape from the loop and be part of the Cybertronian resistance. This little group that they chose, they got like the best D-list characters to all team up.
Are you carrying your own arm? Obviously.
You've probably noticed that the reviews for each episode are getting way shorter, but like I said in the Chapter 2 review, when stories are done right, they really speak for themselves. There's nothing I could say that the episode doesn't already communicate, I feel like. This episode, again, makes me wish that it could have been 22 minutes. So this story's been really well paced too, given the 11-minute restrictions. Like imagine an A plot and a B plot of everyone exploring this Titan. The episodes are so short that no one really has time for character arcs. They can fit the plot into these, but not really character moments or motivations. The characters, though, definitely have great personalities, don't get me wrong, and that is mainly because Jeremy Levy voices half of this resistance. He is like a perfect fit for Transformers. I really hope he gets to stay and do more stuff in the future.
So I was telling Bumblebee, you should meet Bumblebee, he's awesome. I was telling him, you should consider going red. And then he said, everyone will think I'm Cliff Jumper.
Enough lies.
I find it amusing that the season branded after Bumblebee barely features Bumblebee in its primary storyline. Okay, finally, Windblade gets focus again. The poor girl started as one of the 2 protagonists and has since gotten completely sidelined. She didn't even get a deluxe class toy. Imagine being a main character and having Thunder Howl prioritized over you. The storyline is really well paced, and I love how it's been raising more questions as it answers them. Soundwave being incorrectly unplugged from the loop is a fun further exploration of this clever premise they came up with. They're really taking their time on this whole storyline, and it really shows, but it still needed more time.
This hurts me more than it hurts you.
No, it hurts me more.
More of the same. I liked it. It was good. The Scientist by CATT.
You're blue. I don't have a blue one.
They're all, he's collecting you. Why would he collect sound waves and not hot rods?
Okay, I love the Laserbeak origin, but why was it needed for this story? In Cyberverse, a bunch of things happen that don't move the story along or make sense, but sometimes they're just so cool. Like, this is one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. And I love the Scientist design, he's creepy and weird. I love the Soundwave collection.
Keep telling myself I don't have room for any more, but you would go so nicely right here.
I love the additions to Quintesson lore. All 4 of my notes for this episode started with I love, which gives you an idea of my feelings for this Quintesson storyline. It's such a massive juxtaposition compared to the battle for Cybertron that started the season.
Sure hope you've got the touch.
The showrunners had intended to license the song for the sequence, but were unable to do so.
Okay, I love the training course from an earlier episode coming back into play as all the Autobots and Decepticons are forced to work together. And, most significantly for me, Bumblebee and Shadow Striker. I'd say Season 1's Shadow Striker will always be the episode I most remember from this series. It was Cyberverse's equivalent of Thrill of the Hunt. It just came together so well, and it's really disappointing to me that Shadow Striker has had really nothing to do since that first season. Bumblebee and Shadow Striker have gotten a couple little moments here and there, but that's all, and their dynamic was one of the best things Cyberverse established, and it sucks that, once again, they didn't really go anywhere with it.
Hey, Skybite! I told you the Titans cloaking would protect us!
Nonsense! I am the one who protected us.
Ooh, Dead End's betrayal and alliance with Megatron really got me. I was not prepared for how sad that made me, considering I watched this season in one sitting and I'd only met Dead End like an hour ago. I just loved this guy. And then Starscream shows up as a Quintesson thing and I was like, what? That's my in-depth critical review of the episode. Is this getting stale to anyone else? How does the conspiracy end? Like, what are my thoughts in this review? Find out next time. Give me money on Patreon. Watch my other videos. I'm continuing Transformers Animated. I just noticed that the end card doesn't properly fit, which means I edited the whole video in the wrong aspect ratio.